There are two common scenarios that often come up regarding a student's grade in Moodle. The first one involves a student who has missed several assignments, but the grade book is showing that they're getting an A or a B when you know that in reality they are failing. The second one is the opposite problem. It shows up when students complain that, even though they have been doing well on their assignments, their course grade shows them as doing very poorly. Both of these involve what Moodle calls empty grades. As an instructor, you have two options for handling empty grades in your gradebook, and in this video I'm going to discuss both of them. The first thing to do then is to define empty grades. Empty grades are the empty spaces in your grade report that have yet to be filled in. Here's a screenshot of 3 assignments. You can see that 3 of the students have turned in their work for assignments 4, 5, and 6, but one of them has not turned in anything for 5 and 6. His grades are empty. Take note, they're not 0, it's just that nothing has been added. Moodle has 2 ways of handling empty grades. If you choose to exclude empty grades, then Moodle will overlook that space when calculating the total number of points for the course for that student, and he or she will only be graded on the assignments which include a grade. If you choose include empty grades, then Moodle will count each empty grade as a 0 when calculating the course grade for that student, even if those grades are empty because the assignment is in the future. I've created a test course that will demonstrate these options to you as an instructor that you have when working with Moodle. First of all, you'll see that I've created 7 assignments in week 2. For this example, I've determined that all of these assignments have already been graded and are now closed. We're now in week 3, and then in week 4, I've created 7 more assignments, and they're due in the future. When I navigate to my grader report, what I see is that these first 7 assignments have grades in them, and then the second 7 assignments are empty. They're empty grades. But because Moodle defaults to exclude empty grades, you'll notice that the first student, Samuel, has an A, even though these 7 grades are empty. His score is based on the work that he's turned in so far, without the future assignments counting against him. However, I want to show you a problem that comes up with this. You'll notice that Henry has an A in the course also, but if we look back at his assignments 4, 5, 6, and 7, he hasn't turned anything in for those. He's either stopped coming to class or he just hasn't turned in his work. So the question is, why is he getting the same grade as Samuel, who's been turning in his work all along? This is because Moodle is not counting these empty grades against him. Remember, empty grades aren't zeros, they're just empty. To fix this problem, I need to assign 0s for any grades that Henry has missed and doesn't have a chance to make up. To do this, I navigate back to, in the grader report, I turn editing on. And from here, I find those 3 grades that are empty. And what I do is I just fill those in with a 0. Then, down at the bottom on the left, I save the changes, and I turn editing back off. Then when I go back and look at Henry's grade, I see the 0s in here, and they're highlighted in gold just to show that they've been overridden. And his grade now reflects the fact that he's missed those assignments. So now that they're 0, and they're not empty anymore. Now, you have the option to include empty grades if you choose. Some instructors like to use this method so that their students see their grade reflecting what they have done so far in the course in relation to the total points available for the entire course. This way they build their grade as they work through the course. Essentially, they know what grade they would get if they decided to stop working at this point in the semester. To do this, I go back into my gradebook and I click Setup. And in that tab, what you'll see is this folder that contains all of your grades. Now, you may have more than one folder, and just note if you do, you need to do these following steps in each folder. In this folder that has all my assignments, I click Edit and Edit Settings. Right in here, I have the Exclude Empty Grades, which is marked by default. If I uncheck that, go down to the bottom and save the changes, now what I've done is I've included the empty grades. So to see what that looks like, I'll go back to View, I'll come to the students, and I'll scroll all the way over to the right, and what I'll see is that it shows that they're failing, but they have only 47% for Samuel of his grades, of his points available thus far in the class. When you think about the pros and cons for either method, you can look at them and then decide what you'd like to do, which works best for you in your course. If you decide to leave the default of Exclude Empty Grades, you just want to remember to check your grade report regularly to see what the empty grades, which grades are empty that need to be overridden with a 0. If you decide to change it to include the empty grades, you'll just need to remember to explain to your students why the grade shows up in the Moodle shell as lower than what they might expect based on the work that they've turned in. As always, feel free to contact the help desk with any questions that you have, or if you need more help in this area. Thank you for watching, and happy Moodling!